my baby. Get right back to What's up, everybody? This is Vivian Green, and you're listening to the podcast on WilLaVeist.com.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wil LaVeist Show, a science, tech, and pop culture mix. It's the Wil LaVeist Show. Nikki Giovanni is a world-renowned African-American poet and activist. She's one of the pioneering authors of the Black arts movement of the 1960s and 70s. Nikki Giovanni is a living legend who remains a powerful voice for women today, especially Black women. She's also been a critic of President Obama, but a constructive critic in love. I talked with Nikki Giovanni yesterday about the legacy of President Obama and Michelle Obama, our new president, Donald Trump, who she called Satan, and the Women's March movement that happened the day after his inauguration. Here's that interview with Nikki Giovanni. Nikki Giovanni, welcome to the Wil LaVeist Show. Actually, welcome back to the Wil LaVeist Show.
Thank you.
We've got a new president in Donald Trump. Your thoughts, including Congressman Lewis saying that Donald Trump is actually not legitimate.
I think anything that John Lewis would say about anything has to be respected. And I am very, very fortunate. I know John Lewis. Actually, we graduated from Fisk University at the same time. And I think that Donald Trump is not only a fool, but I think that there has been a coup. I think the Russians have created a coup. They purchased Donald Trump, and now we're stuck with him. And everybody tries to make like that somehow or another this is all right, but it's not all right. This man is a fool, and he's ignorant, and he's going to do what Putin says, and we'll have to see where we want to go with it.
You know, that's being investigated, and a lot of that there is that people throwing out accusations and not necessarily having the facts in there. What are the facts there that make you feel strongly that he's been purchased?
I don't have to have facts. I can look at this fool and wonder who would have voted for him. The only people that would do that would be people that he purchased a vote, or mostly when you look at the hacking, that it was hacked. So I don't have to prove diddly squat to any of these people, because these people that are sitting there telling me that somebody wanted this man is a fool. They're fools. And to tell you the truth, they said 8% of the Black Americans voted for Trump, and may they go to hell. And so I think that I don't have to prove anything. Nobody could hear that so-called inauguration speech. Nobody can see the narrow-mindedness and think, oh, yeah, people were inspired by him.
So you weren't impressed by the speech, even though he talked directly about doing things for the forgotten people in inner cities, Black people in inner rural cities?
Are you kidding? I mean, you have to be kidding. Donald Trump refused in New York to rent apartments to people who had money to rent the apartment. Are you kidding? And so all of a sudden he wakes up and he's going to tell John Lewis, who has spent his life helping America become more civilized, he's going to say, you don't know what you're doing? Are you kidding? He's the guy who's going to send your son and my son off to some war or someplace. When he dodged Vietnam, he and his sons have dodged every conflict that there is. And we're supposed to say, oh, yeah, he's on our side. Please. This will make me throw up.
No, you're not buying any of this.
I'm not a fool. And I am a Christian, let me say that. And one of the things that I know as I read the King James Version of the Bible was when they had 3 crosses and 4 men. And Pilate, who was a bully and a fool also, said to the crowd, who do you want? I can't find any fault with this man. Who do you want? And the crowd said, give us Barabbas. And the crowd this time had said, give us Trump. They're the same people. Give us Trump. I don't have to buy any of it.
Black people have been catching flack for actually meeting Trump and engaging him. For example, Jim Brown, Steve Harvey. Is this criticism, does it make sense, or, is it political correctness?
I'm so disappointed. I used to look at Family Feud, and I wrote a poem, actually, about Barack Obama. And I wrote it and said that he was the next best dressed man besides Steve Harvey. And I've never been so sorry that I used an image. Steve is a comedian and a fool, too. But I record on television because I'm out a lot. I used to record Family Feud. And I came home after seeing him stand there with Trump. I said, oh, I'm never going to look at it again. I think that's ridiculous. And then we're going to act like a comedian has something to say. The people that have something to say are people like John Lewis, the people who have done something. I was very disappointed that Marty King went to the White House at the time when Donald Trump is feuding with a great man, John Lewis.
So, Martin Luther King Jr., his son, the third, right?
Yeah. What is wrong with him? That he doesn't recognize. He needs to back out of this. He obviously doesn't know what's going on. What is wrong with him?
Well, some of them are taking a position of, well, this is the president. Let's engage him. Let's see what it is that he's going to do. Let's give him an opportunity. I mean, President Obama even said that.
Well, listen, and Obama was wrong, but, that'd be like saying to the Jews, now Hitler is not such a bad guy. I know he's saying some weird things, but let's see what he's really going to do. And 6 million dead people later, we did, didn't we?
You can't argue with that. And as we think about history, I mean, you're a veteran of the women's rights movement, obviously. The Women's March, your reaction when you saw that the next day after the inauguration?
I was so proud of the women, and I was so proud of the signs, keep your hands off my body, because Trump had made a point of saying, well, when you're a star, you can put your hands any place. I was so proud. D.C., you practically couldn't move, and I was not there. And I'm an old one. I know there were other old women who were there, but I was so proud to see the women saying, no, keep your hands off my body, and especially because I'm such a big fan of Black Lives Matter, and to see Black Lives Matter holding up their banner. I was sitting here in my home shouting, go sisters, go. It was so wonderful. And, John, speaking of John Lewis, John also marched with the women. I think a statement was being made, and I think a statement is going to continue to be made to see the women, not just in Washington, but all over the world, all over, not just the United States. But
are you planning to get involved in the leadership or being more out front and vocal about it?
I am just a writer, and I'm 73 years old, and I'm not going to fool myself to say that I should be doing something that I am not capable of doing. That's not necessary. The Black Lives Matter, they know what they're doing, and so I'm proud of them and I support them. But everybody's always trying to lead. Everybody, the minute something happens, everybody wants to jump up and say, well, I'm a leader. I'm not. I'm a follower, and I follow what these kids are doing, and I'm so proud of them. And whatever I can do to be a part of it, and a part of it is talking to you, to say how proud of them I am. The Black Lives Matter are not Klansmen. They don't run around at midnight with their faces covered trying to do damage to somebody. Black Lives Matter are bold and brave, and I just think wonderful young men and women. So I'm just proud to see them, to see what they're doing. I really am.
Considering the historical context of black women not always getting their due in the women's movement, do you have any concerns, any advice that you would offer?
Again, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and you have to remember the reason Delta broke apart from AKA, from Alpha Kappa Alpha, is that the Women's March for the right to vote, Susan B. Anthony, anybody tell you, that was a racist. And so the black women said, we want to we too need the vote. And Susan B. said, well, the only way you can do it is to march at the end. And the black women who were then all AKAs said, we're not doing that. But the 21 who broke apart said, we think it's more important to be at the march than to actually deal with the racism of these people. So we marched. And as a member of Delta, I'm incredibly proud of what my four sisters have done. You're not going to always get what you want. The nature of politics is that you find ways to work together, to move it slowly but surely.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because some of the black folks that are working or at least engaging Trump are saying the same thing.
To me, saying that you're working with Trump is saying you're trying to understand the devil. So I'm having a hard time. We can have this discussion all night, but to me, if ever there was Satan, it's Trump. And I think that everybody who thought it wasn't is going to see that. I'm not. There's no discussion, because Trump is not a good guy who's only trying to see where he can go. And to me, the the clear comparison is Hitler, and people keep wanting to not deal with that. The clear comparison is the people who said Adolf is not a bad guy. He's an Austrian. He's just trying to help the Germans get jobs. And, of course, we saw the end result. We saw that. And I'm sorry. I'm old enough to not be afraid like that. But watching Trump, we're looking at a war. We've got the Secretary of State says, oh, we're going to stop the Chinese from coming into the China Sea. That's just a lot of crap. And so, no, not a question of helping Trump, because Trump knows what he's doing. He's trying to separate blacks and whites. He's trying to separate men and women. I'm a black woman. I have a child. I have a son. He's grown now. Nobody's going to convince me. They're talking about pro-life. What do they want with my child? They want to either kill him at 14, they want to shoot him in the back, or they want to shoot him down when he's 20-something and he's in a car and all he's doing is stopping and the police want to shoot him down, or they want to put him in jail. We have more people. We have 2.5 million people in jail. Don't tell me that pro-life is what you're about. Pro-life is not what you're about. You just want my child. So in the old days, you wanted to make a slave out of him, but now you want to actually put him in prison so that makes money for them. I don't want to hear it. If I, as a woman, I want my own control of my body. And a part of that is I don't want to have a baby. Why didn't I have that? Oh, we love children. No, you don't, because you won't even pass a law. We can't get health care. We can't get schools. We can't get decent housing to put these kids in. We walk away, and the men walk away because the men have an automatic abortion, mine, and the women have these children. And all of these children keep coming up, and nobody's taking care of them.
A few years ago, President Obama, during his first term, I would say that you were in a camp, like many of us, who offered constructive criticism and love, as opposed to, for example, Cornel West, who has been very much vilified for sort of taking it personal in his criticism of President Obama. But how do you feel about his presidency now that it's over?
I think that this is just me right now, but I don't think we can overlook the fact that Obama did not teach anybody. So it was not surprising at the end of his first term that we actually are going to set up Donald Trump. When Donald Trump comes out and says things like, Obama is not birthed in the United States, that needed to be responded to we needed to teach the Americans. When Donald Trump and them were saying, oh, Obamacare, it's the affordable health care, and that we needed to teach. And I think that, I don't know who Barack was impressing or trying to impress, but I know that the end result of 8 years of Barack Hussein Obama has been Donald Trump. So you have to know something's wrong. The President of the United States did not teach blacks or whites what we needed to understand as we go forward as Americans. The point is, we have a black guy as president, then he needs to spend some time in Appalachia. He needs to spend some time talking to the black community. And I was disappointed when he gave his farewell speech in Chicago. He needed to be walking down the streets of Chicago. He needed to be talking to those gangs, telling them what he feels and how he hopes they will go forward. He needs to be teaching. And we didn't have that, did we? He's in Chicago and not dealing, which has the highest murder rate in the country right now. He didn't want to walk down those streets and say, well, I'm a little disappointed because I thought you guys could do better, to talk to the people. He didn't want to come up here. I live in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm in Appalachia. He didn't want to come and say, well, I really think that, maybe we are not going to do anything that's going to affect you all. The coal, and everybody said that coal is finished. But to teach them, but we need to to prepare your grandchildren, your children and grandchildren as they go forward. He didn't do any teaching. It was the president's job to do that.
He resisted talking about race unless he was forced to. And even with, for example, with Ferguson, he dropped the ball on Ferguson even in that. I mean, so what do you think was going on there with him that he didn't really?
Right now you're asking about proof. Right now, I don't have enough to say what I really think, so I'm just going to let it pass. But I know he did not do a good job. That I do know.
Michelle Obama, what do you think she's meant to the nation and the job that she did?
I think people like Michelle, and I'm glad. And the first lady is not elected, and so we're looking for other people to do other things. But she's not there to do that.
Right. He
is.
The idea of the White House, being built by slaves, and then you have a beautiful black family in there, as living in that house, and how she carried herself.
I think she's wonderful, but and I was laughing about that recently. They have a T-shirt that said, "We're all mutts," and nothing could be closer to the truth than that America is made of mutts. So you just said to me, we had a black family living in the White House. We've had black families living in the White House. They just didn't admit they were black. So please.
Your thoughts on President Obama, his legacy, how he will be remembered, your thoughts?
I don't know how he remembered yet, because in 10 years I think there's going to be some information to come forward.
Your feelings of your young black women and your hope, what do you see?
Well, if I could do any one thing, and I talk about it a lot, not that anybody listens to poets, but the one thing, and I'm so glad the movie came out, Hidden Figures, the one thing that you want to see black women become more involved in is space. Because whatever Earth does with space, it's going to take black women, because we are the only people that could go into an extraordinary situation and be what some would call abused, and whatever we would end up birthing, whatever we would end up, for a better word, delivering, we learn to love it, whether it was the United States or whether it's Mars. If we're going to have a successful visit to space, black women are going to have to lead it. And I am so thrilled to not only to be a black woman, but that we really, so you have to appreciate the what black women have done for this planet. And as we go forward, and Mars or Titian or whatever we do, because Earth is going to we have to go forward, because Earth, as you know, is dying. It's going to be black women who are going to find the sound. And I was laughing there with my class, and I was saying, because we have to remember, there's no language called African. There is no language called European. And so we have to remember that these women had to find a way to talk and to encourage her people. And, of course, she did that in song. And so we invented, in Middle Passage, the spiritual. Black women are phenomenal. And I'm thrilled that I know them. I'm thrilled to be a part of them. And I know that as we go forward in the future, it's going to be black women.
Fantastic. Nikki Giovanni, appreciate you being on the show. God blessings to you and everything that you do, and all of you've already done for us as black Americans and black women and black men as well.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
You've been listening to the Wil LaVeist podcast at WilLaVeist.com. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Go to my website and sign up for the e-blast to learn what I've got coming up next. And check out the website for where you can listen to the show live. Until next time, take care and God bless.